there can't be another Assembly vote until 2011, and it seems firmly off the political agenda. But maybe there's still a giant elephant in the room. Do we have enough power in the north to solve our own problems?
Mark Dent and his friend John there. I wonder who he could have been named after. And if you'd like to test your memories of the 2004 referendum, white elephants, giant rats and all, there's a fun quiz on our website at bbc.co.uk/politics show. See how many you score. But time to quiz some politicians now. With me is Darry Taylor, the Labour MP for Stockton South, who did support the Assembly idea, and Graham Robb, a leading light of the successful No campaign. Darry Taylor, you did support the idea 5 years ago. Did your party mess up the one chance it had to get this off the ground by offering something that was toothless? When you heard some of the powers people wanted in that film, and none of them were on offer, really, were they?
Well, I think that most of the time we were expressing what could actually come about, and I think the detail of the macroeconomics of what we were suggesting was simply not hitting the pulse with the ordinary voter. And all they could hear and see was more politicians and additional funding for more politicians, when in actual fact the argument we were expressing, and I was expressing, was more power to the region to manage its own affairs. So I think you're right. I think we had a campaign that simply didn't hit the punches.
That's gone now, hasn't it, really? I mean,
Absolutely.
It's not going to come back, is it, really, in our lifetime, probably? But if voters did reject that solution, it did leave a problem, which you alluded to, how to give local people more control over their lives. And you still haven't resolved that, have you?
Well, I actually think we've moved some way. I think the Regional Development Agency, well, I know, it's not a case of thinking. I know the Regional Development Agency has worked very well. Whether I'm in Blyth or Redcar, or in between, talking about offshore wind or the biofuels industry, the Regional Development Agency has actually very clearly organised collaboration between companies from the north to the south and worked incredibly well to develop very much leading lights. I mean, we are leading lights in offshore wind and biofuels. And this
Is that tackling, though, the central problem I'm talking about, which is that giving local control to people over their lives? I mean, One North East is another giant quango, isn't it?
Well, the absolute fact is what people want out of any government is good employment, good opportunities, a future they can rely on. I think that is what One North East has delivered.
Okay.
With me, I mean, in all honesty, with people like myself, with a select committee now scrutinising them, and a grant committee also working to scrutinise.
Well, let's bring Graham Robb in. I mean, you were prominent in the No campaign. I know you haven't changed your mind, but what do you make, though, of the people in the film who did seem to have some sort of rethink?
Well, I very much share their frustration, but for entirely different reasons. We had a massive campaign at town and village throughout the north that voted against regional government, but actually, completely contrary to what Darry's saying, I think we've had regional government imposed on us by the back door. The RDA has now got responsibility for regional... Yeah, it's got responsibility for regional spatial strategy, regional waste strategy, regional culture strategy, regional housing strategy. All of this should really be devolved down to local government. We should probably keep the inward investment role and streamline One North East, but then have good quality local enterprise partnerships in natural economic areas like Tees Valley and Northumberland and so on. And what we've had really in the last 5 years is the greatest wasted opportunity for our region. Since the war, the Labour Party were told no to regional government, yet like some pushy door-to-door salesman, they've refused to take no for an answer.
You're talking about structures, really, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, do structures matter to people? As Darry Taylor says, if the One North East is delivered as it has statistically, jobs,
no, I don't accept that. I'm sorry,
matter?
I don't accept that. You know, if you look at the first part of the recession, 2008 to 2009, the GDP of the North East has fallen by more than 6%, which is a worse fall than many other regions of the UK. So actually, it may be supporting new industries on a big macro scale, but that hasn't yet resulted in more jobs. And if you look at the problems of Tees Valley, which you alluded to there on the chemical sector, you've got business leaders writing to Lord Mandelson, giving proper ideas of how things can be tackled, and Lord Mandelson writing back with saccharine comments and no solutions. Nothing actually has been achieved.
I've enough of Lord Mandelson for the moment. But anyway, Darry Taylor, the problem is that all the parties, yours included, talk about handing powers to local councils, but that hasn't happened, has it? I mean, there are no extra powers for councils that you've handed over.
Well, again, you see, the sub-regional partnership, which is...
What does that mean to people?
OK, I agree with you. I think these are words, and you're quite right to point them out. But Stockton, Middlesbrough and Redcar, this is a group of people who work together. I'm absolutely of the belief he's right. You know, we talk about spatial strategy. These three councils work out what their spatial strategy is.
That's their planning, their plan for the area.
It can overrule them, Derek. It can overrule them.
Hold on. In terms of housing, or in terms of transport, or road transport, or public transport, they've actually secured 40 million out of the government for their own regional network. They work together on housing. So the absolute fact is, One North East doesn't work in absentia. It works with local councils. Okay. It works with local industry. Otherwise, whatever it's doing would be worse.
Move it on slightly. I mean, clearly we have some local mayors in the area. Is that the future?
Well, I'm a great supporter of Ray Mallon. I think this is a character. I think he has a sense of community, a sense of identity.
And can that spread to other areas? That's what we're talking about.
I think that the absolute fact is there will be votes in other areas, so that we will see people who can bring all the groups together become someone of note, and possibly, that's the mayor.
Graham Robb, I mean, you seem to be quite favourable of local mayors, but actually when you give people a vote, they don't want them. Darlington people voted against them.
Yes, absolutely. But actually it's fair enough to give people a vote and to let them express a view. But you also have to take with the local mayor or the local organisation of whoever it is, the power, and you have to devolve it downwards from local big regional agencies like One North East. And that's what I'd like to see. You know, we need to have regional policy needs to concentrate on creating more business and more enterprise, and that's what will make it successful.
Well, let's bring Derek Taylor back in.
Just one statement to Graham, because, you know, on the whole, there's not going to be an awful lot of disagreement amongst us. There is one body that actually ensures public funding, and that's the government. 80% of everything we spend comes from our own personal taxation. So when you talk about saying power should be down at the lowest level within government structures to engage with the community, absolutely right. You have to remember one thing. His government, my government, will define a strategy of wherever it is, and they will fund it. And if, in fact, that local strategy is different, they won't fund it.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. Derek Taylor, Graham Robb, plenty more to discuss on that. Thank you very much.